brand new $100 million jet. Sold. Delivered. Gone. No flight records. No passengers. No maintenance logs. The French engineers who built it spent years trying to find it, and found nothing. They called it the ghost plane. Then, 20 years later, French intelligence finally revealed the truth. That Airbus A320 had been secretly taken to China, stripped bolt by bolt, component by component, in one of the most audacious acts of industrial theft the aviation world has ever seen. And the result of all that stealing, all that copying, all that billion-dollar government investment? An aircraft almost nobody on Earth wants to fly. This is the story of how China tried to outsmart Airbus, and failed so completely it's almost embarrassing. To understand what happened, you have to understand the power that Boeing and Airbus hold over the world. Together, these two companies control roughly 99% of the global market for large commercial aircraft. Every time a jet took off from Beijing, Shanghai, or Shenzhen, the profits flew straight into foreign hands, either to Seattle or to Toulouse. For a country that calls itself the world's factory, that was an unbearable situation. So in 2006, the Chinese Communist Party put it in writing inside its national 5-year plan. China would build its own commercial jet, and it would spare absolutely no expense. The government poured an estimated $49 billion to $72 billion into a single state-owned company called COMAC, the Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China, with one job: end the Boeing-Airbus duopoly forever. What followed was not just an engineering program. It was a coordinated, government-backed intelligence operation. Between 2010 and 2015, a Chinese hacking group tracked by CrowdStrike under the codename Turbine Panda systematically broke into the networks of every major C919 supplier: GE Aviation, Safran, Honeywell, Capstone Turbine, and others. They deployed malware called PlugX and Sacula directly onto company servers, searched for engine blueprints, manufacturing specs, and proprietary designs, then quietly exfiltrated them back to China. CrowdStrike concluded this operation likely knocked several years and potentially billions of dollars off COMAC's development timeline. And this wasn't just cyber theft. Su Yanjun, a senior officer inside China's Ministry of State Security, was personally running a parallel operation to recruit insiders at foreign aerospace firms. In 2018, FBI agents and Belgian police arrested him mid-meeting with a GE Aviation engineer he thought was about to hand over confidential turbine technology. In November 2022, a federal jury in Cincinnati convicted him on 4 counts of espionage and trade secret theft. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Now here is where the plan completely falls apart. After all the hacking, all the arrests, all the stolen blueprints, China still could not build the C919 without Western suppliers. Not even close. Roughly 91% of the C919 is manufactured by non-Chinese companies. The engines come from CFM International, a joint venture between GE and France's Safran. The avionics are Honeywell. The landing gear is Liebherr. The flight control systems are GE. Even the brakes are Honeywell. The fuselage and wings are essentially the only parts China actually builds itself. And because every one of these Western suppliers knew exactly what China had been doing, the hacking, the espionage, the ghost plane, they did not give COMAC their best technology. They gave them older, detuned, previous generation systems. According to a detailed Forbes investigation, the LEAP 1C engine fitted to the C919 shares more internal architecture with CFM's old CFM56 platform from the 1970s than with the modern LEAP 1A and LEAP 1B engines currently powering the A320neo and 737 MAX. The direct result is that the C919 has a maximum range of just 3,000 nautical miles, meaningfully shorter than its Western competitors. The sales numbers tell the full story. On the surface, COMAC has over 1,200 orders across 25 customers. Sounds impressive until you read the detail. 23 of those 25 customers are either Chinese state-owned airlines or leasing companies with heavy Chinese government ownership. The only two international names on the list, Gallop Air of Brunei and a Cambodian carrier, are both substantially owned by Chinese investors. These are not independent commercial decisions. They are engineered outcomes. 0 genuine international airlines have placed an order. Not one budget carrier from Southeast Asia. Not one regional airline from Africa. Nobody. And this is happening during the worst aircraft shortage in modern aviation history, a moment when airlines are waiting over a decade for new jets from Boeing and Airbus. The production situation is even worse. Since COMAC began assembling the C919 in 2011, the company has delivered a grand total of around 32 aircraft, fewer than 3 per year on average. Boeing and Airbus each complete more than 1 aircraft every single day. In 2025, COMAC set itself an ambitious target of 75 deliveries. Then in September they quietly cut that number to 25. Then they missed even that reduced target, finishing the year with approximately 13 to 16 jets delivered, a figure confirmed by aviation data firms Cirium and Planispotters.net and reported by Bloomberg in December 2025. The reason the production line slowed so dramatically? The United States temporarily banned exports of CFM LEAP 1C engines to China between June and July 2025 amid escalating trade tensions. One export ban. A few weeks, and China's entire flagship aircraft program ground to a halt. That single moment exposed the entire strategy for what it is, a house of cards built on foreign components that a foreign government can take away overnight. COMAC has now quietly shelved its pursuit of FAA certification for the C919. Without approval from the FAA in the United States or ENSA in Europe, the aircraft cannot legally operate for the vast majority of the world's airlines. The jet that was supposed to break the Boeing-Airbus duopoly cannot fly internationally under the standards that international aviation actually runs on. Meanwhile, Airbus is building a second A320 assembly line inside China, in Tianjin, set to open by 2025. Airbus is so embedded in the Chinese market that it is practically a domestic supplier. The very country China was trying to beat is now more welcome on Chinese soil than China's own aircraft is on anyone else's. The ghost plane is still sitting in a field in Jiangsu province, a hollowed-out $100 million carcass surrounded by weeds. China stole the blueprint. China hacked the engine designs. China spent over $70 billion building the industry around it. And the world looked at the result and said no thanks. Because you can copy a plane. You cannot copy 20 years of certifications, decades of maintenance networks, and the kind of trust that only gets built after thousands of aircraft fly billions of passengers safely across the planet. That trust is what Airbus and Boeing actually sell, and that is the one thing China could never steal.